Okay, good morning, good afternoon. I'm David Solomon. In addition to being the Director of Research and Creative Activity at Christopher Newport University in Virginia, I am the current chair of the Undergraduate Research Programs Division of CUR, and I want to welcome you back to this year's Undergraduate Research Program Exchanges. These 50-minute Zoom sessions are monthly facilitated exchanges of ideas and information on a variety of topics and issues related to undergraduate research programs. Sessions are recorded and made available in the Kerr community and the Kerr URPD website. These exchanges are not designed to be formal presentations, but instead will begin with very brief introductions by facilitators and then open for discussion. Today's session addresses something many of us are not familiar with: vertically integrated programs. We're fortunate to have colleagues representing 3 institutions to facilitate this session. First, I'll ask our guests to introduce themselves, and then we'll have a few minutes about their practices from each of their campuses, and we'll have plenty of time for questions and discussions. So introductions first here. Liz, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Liz Eish. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Research and Inquiry at Rice University in Houston.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kay Orzek, and I'm representing the University of Arizona in Tucson, Arizona, and I am the VIP Program Coordinator.
And Hallie?
Hello, I'm Haley Edmonds, and I am the program assistant at Kennesaw State University.
And finally, Amy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Buddy. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Research at Kennesaw State University.
So I have the PowerPoint up. Do I have the right slide up, folks, or do I have to swap?
That's right, I think.
Yeah,
That's right.
right.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to start off with Kennesaw State and talking a little bit about what these are in general, and then going specifically about what they do at Kennesaw State. So, Amy and Hallie.
Yes, thank you so much. In general, the Vertically Integrated Projects Program is a program that facilitates long-term research involving large teams of faculty and staff. And vertically integrated refers to the several levels of researchers working together on a project. So for example, what that looks like is a sophomore will learn from a junior will learn from a senior could learn from a graduate student, and graduate student learns from the faculty. So everybody works together in that kind of vertically integrated way. The students are able to gain research skills and academic credit through the participation, and the faculty are able to scale up their research through this model. The program also allows for all students of all majors at all levels to participate and join teams. And they're not only limited to joining teams that are within their major, but also outside of their major, of course, with some consultation with their academic advisor to see how that VIP credit fits into their degree program. Each department is particular and specific, so there's no one way to do to have VIP embedded into departments and disciplines. It's really like configurational and tailored to that department. This slide here references some of the essential elements that partner institutions are expected to adhere to. And so that looks like having a VIP program led by a faculty member who has a VIP team of their own. The VIP projects are embedded in professor scholarship and exploration. And while the projects are embedded in professors' interests, the sub-teams within the VIP team are selected by students and are based on their disciplinary goals and professional ambitions as that aligns. Also, these teams are considered large-scale projects that last years and even decades, especially the kind of founding institution. Georgia Tech has teams that have lasted for decades on end and are still going strong, which is very impressive. Also, the program is curricular, so of course students receive course credit and are graded. Students are discouraged from joining. We have seen that with incentives such as students being able to earn course credit, that they are, very invested and are able to stay on longer, and also help them gain those credits for matriculation. So there's a great caveat to that, so that they're able to have some benefits there. And the teams are multidisciplinary, and the learning outcomes for the teams should not just be academic and disciplinary, but also professional skills that translate to those future ambitions. And we can head to the next slide. And just a quick site overview of Kennesaw
Oops, I'm
State
sorry.
University's. Oh,
I think I skipped
no,
a
this is
slide.
this is the right slide.
Okay.
The overview. So just an overview of the VIP program at KSU. We started in 2021 and have grown steadily each year. So we began with 7 teams in 2021, and now we have a total of 28, and we are represented in 7 out of 9 colleges. And we tend to accept 7 teams a year. So that's where that kind of steady growth comes from. All of our teams present, excuse me, at the Symposium of Student Scholars held here on our campus biannually in the fall and spring. So students have that opportunity to disseminate their research here on campus in front of leadership and the student body, but as well as other opportunities such as Incur and Posters at the Capitol, and of course, various disciplinary specific conferences. Each year, each of the new teams that we accept, they receive an initial funding of $5,000 in their first year of operation, and they are expected to seek out an external funding for the subsequent years that they are involved with the VIP program for that self-sustainability aspect. And also here, students are able to register for a designated course. So we have a container called RES, in which undergraduate students will register for RES 4,000, and graduate students will register for RES 7,000 each semester. And there's a variable credit option depending on the kind of level that that student is at in the VIP team. So a freshman will be at 1 credit hour, a senior could be at 3 credit hours, and that all depends on their level of leadership in that team. And next slide.
So we wanted to just give you a couple of sample teams to look at. There, like Haley said, there's 28 teams on the website, which I put in the chat if you want to go check it out. We're very diverse. I think a lot of the VIP sites really launched in engineering, and so there's a lot of STEM, and we've got a few that aren't. Still, we're very STEM heavy for sure, but for example, the KSU Game Studio one is led by a faculty member in English, but it's a collaboration between English and software engineering. The research on undergraduate research one, that's my team, and I'm in my home field is psychology, but I only have 1 out of 10 students who's in psychology. So we see the sort of interdisciplinary nature of a lot of these, and even like the CPAL one, that's a new one led by a faculty member in biology, but looking for students who have art background, for example. So I like that these VIP teams are really bringing together a lot of diverse kinds of students and multiple faculty members from different departments too, which is really cool. Next slide. So we don't want to leave you with the impression that it's all roses and unicorns and sunshine because we've had challenges, and maybe you'll want to ask about some of this stuff later, but being really brief about it, Haley and I kind of brainstormed, okay, what are the biggest challenges that we've had with VIP over the last few years? And by far, the biggest challenge has been the course. So it's a course that anybody can take that does not have a home in a particular department. And we did that on purpose because we want to encourage the interdisciplinary nature of all of this. The problem is it doesn't land anywhere in their majors, and we're going to try to work on that over the next year or so. Really, Haley was hired a little less than a year ago and has been really tremendous in terms of like kind of organizing all of this. I just never got around to it. But what we want to do is go to departments and be like, can this Res 4000 class count as X, or help us figure out how it can count in students' majors. We get a lot of students who say, why should I have to pay to do research? And faculty agree. So it's been very difficult to get the teams, some of the teams, to actually have their students take the course. Some teams look like they're really big, And they are, and some teams look like they're really tiny, but they're not. It's just because nobody will take the course, and we just don't have a way to force them to really. So that's been an issue. We've had a few faculty who start VIP teams. They seem like they're going to be great, and it seems clear they were in it for that $5,000 and they're done after the first year. Some of them even say like, I'm going to quit and start over with a new team so that I can get the $5,000 again. Like, no, we're not doing that. So that's been a problem too. And I kind of get it, right? Especially in the current climate, there's not a whole lot of money out there for people right now. So I don't, I understand, but that's not what VIP is supposed to be. Many faculty want that Res 4000 class, which is really just there to sort of indicate that students are on a VIP team. They want that to be part of their teaching load. And at KSU, we can't do it. There's not enough faculty for the now 51,000 students who go here, and chairs don't have the ability to allow that to happen. And some faculty are kind of mad about it. And the final thing is that we kind of have this expectation that faculty will become self-sustaining, that $5,000 is supposed to be seed funding to get them through that first year, and then they apply for funds. Well, there's not a whole lot out there anymore. So I don't know what the future holds in terms of that. So that's it for KSU.
Great, thank you. I'm sure there are lots of questions. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and then we'll open it up for discussion when we're finished here. I know I already have a few questions, so I'm going to hold off until the end here, and we'll move on talking about Rice.
Thanks, David. I want to say we started off just last year at Rice supporting VIP at the institution level. We'd had VIP teams, but only in one department, in electrical engineering, because of a chance meeting with one faculty member and Ed Coyle, who started VIP. So last year, we for the first time supported our VIP teams. And the way that we expanded at Rice to include more faculty is we took these sort of components of a VIP team and led a faculty learning community to understand what VIP was and to look at what VIP would look like at Rice. So I took those sort of components of VIP that every VIP team is expected to have, and I divided them into three categories here. The project itself, that it's embedded in the faculty interest, long-term, long scale. The course support, that it is curricular, students can earn credit, that there are learning outcomes. And then the team itself, multidisciplinary teams with students from different majors in a dedicated space with a mutual interest around this project. And then David, if you'll click, the questions that we ask that faculty learning community to come up with an answer will animate in. So what is the minimum length of a VIP project? How do we define that for all disciplines? Are the space needs different in those disciplines? How big does a team have to be a team? Who makes decisions on the team membership? At Georgia Tech, students apply and get assigned to teams. And at Rice, our faculty wanted control, right? How could our office then help recruit the students, especially the non-majors that the faculty might not have immediate access to? How do students earn credit? Which courses? Will all VIP teams have some learning outcomes that are shared across all of them? And then ultimately that led our office to this question of what supports do our faculty need for us to centrally support VIP at Rice? So on the next slide, I have what we landed on. Our office, the Office of Undergraduate Research and Inquiry, or ORI, supports VIP at Rice with support for the students. We have a team application portal on our website to facilitate students requesting to be on a team. So they don't have to know that faculty member, have contact, they don't have to have an in. They can just go to our website, apply, and immediately the faculty member gets notice that someone wants to join their team. We have marketing events for VIP so that students are aware of these teams and what they're intended to do, especially our students that are novices. Having a place where they feel welcome is great for them. And then our office puts on a presentation opportunity in our spring Inquiry Week celebration of undergraduate research for all of the VIP teams. We support the course that is associated with VIP. Many of our faculty have chosen to use the departmental codes for courses, and that does help because it means for many of our students, it does count towards their major, but not all departments have a course, or maybe what a student is doing for VIP doesn't exactly meet what the research course requirements are. So we have a university-wide course. We created an assignment library so that faculty don't have to design the assignments in those courses themselves. And I created a syllabus creator, which is a Google form, and with just a few clicks and which assignments you want, it will spit out a Rice University formatted syllabus for our faculty. We also want to support our faculty, so we offer letters of support from our office for external funding, so that teams can continue to support themselves. Like Amy mentioned, we have some one-time startup funding. And then new this year, we're starting to offer some centralized assessment, which I think is going to be really important for being able to secure external funding from grants.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to Kay talking about what's happening at Arizona.
Hi. So I'm diligently taking notes over here. A lot of things you've heard from Kennesaw and Rice are things that we also do at University of Arizona, although I'm not going to talk about it all, but if you're interested in sort of the comparison, I can talk about how we've done some of the things that they also do. So I'm Kay Orzak, and I'm the program coordinator for vertically integrated projects at University of Arizona, and I've been in this role for about 2 years. For a little bit of context, we are one of the 3 state universities in Arizona. We are Arizona's land-grant university. And as of fall 2024, which is the most recent data, our enrollment was about 45,000 undergraduates and 11,000 graduate students. So here are a few ways that we depart from the standard VIP plan. We do have faculty leading large-scale, long-term, often multidisciplinary teams, but we allow staff as well as faculty to lead a team. Our faculty now, as of this fall, includes some cooperative extension faculty. And we also allow what we call professors of practice, the more teaching-focused faculty, to lead teams as well. We do encourage our leads to allow students from any discipline, class year, or major to join their team without research experience. But in practicality, it's more of a mix. Some team leads in more technical disciplines prefer students with a background in their discipline, especially like in engineering. We have an internally developed Qualtrics form that sounds very much like what Liz described at Rice, that allows us to collect basic information on students and notify team leaders that that student is interested in their team. But we also have capability in that form to collect if a particular team lead would like a resume or something, we can do that as part of our form. We do encourage all of our teams to set up a credit option for their students. Like Rice, it tends to be more departmental credit. So in that case, as Liz said, folks may be more likely to get credit for taking a part in a VIP. It doesn't always work perfectly that way. But we also find that sometimes students can't take additional credits. They need to work to continue at college. We have a very large number of first-generation students and lower income students at the U of A. So we, both the central VIP and team leaders, if they have the capability, try to employ students as part of their team. And students can also volunteer in some cases. And so the most recent data I have from that sort of breaks down about, close to half of the students take VIP for credit, close to half are paid, and then there's a smattering of volunteers in there. Although we're working to grow larger teams, if you look at sort of Georgia Tech, the founding university for this, they have very large teams, like 25 students. And we struggle to get our teams that big. We started out 5 years ago in fall 2020 with 2 teams that had 7 students each on it. And since then, the average team size went down a little bit to more like 3 or 4, and then has sort of been rising up to now between 6 and 8. But we only have a handful of teams that have more than 15 students on them. But we do have a lot of teams. And so this slide is just to show, as Amy showed at Kennesaw State, we are connected to many disciplines at the U of A. As she said, VIPs nationally started in engineering, but at U of A we did not. We started in health sciences and information sciences and grew from there. As of spring 2025, we had 22 colleges within the U of A. There's been a bit of a shift since we have a new president, a new provost, a new senior vice president of research. Basically, all the top leadership has turned over in less than the last year. So things are changing. But of those previous 22 colleges, we had representation, VIP team leads from 13 of them, plus 4 additional campus units, things like the Arizona Institute for Resilience, which isn't a department proper, but sort of a collection of folks. And we also have external partners, like the Arizona Sonora Desert Museum, which is a nationally known museum and zoo in our town. So here's just a few pictures. Another unique thing about the U of A is that we have Biosphere 2, which is like a full Earth ecosystem under glass. So we have several VIP teams that actually meet and do research out there, including the Rainforest Resilience team that's pictured here. We also have a research stable, believe it or not, where our horse science and innovation team meets, which is sort of math and equine science. And we have a long-running team that combines the visualization of astronomy data with music and dance performance, which is called Stellarscape. So those are some of the more unique VIPs, but we have close to 70 VIP teams that students can join.
Oh, that's fantastic. So let me ask you for the speakers, how does this intersect or interact with undergraduate research proper on your campus? And what influence has it had on undergraduate research?
I mean, I can start. Part of the project at the University of Arizona, amid all of these administration changes, is that we are trying to make it easier for students to connect to undergraduate research at the U of A. In the past, there have been as many as 4 different ways that are sort of recognized ways that you can get involved in undergraduate research at the U of A. And so my VIP falls under one of those ways. And we have something called the Undergraduate Research Alliance, and we're really trying to sort of line up everybody and get everybody talking to each other. As you can imagine, with 22 different colleges, there are a lot of silos. But so VIP is sort of the flagship idea of one part of how to get involved in undergraduate research. And because it is so multidisciplinary, faculty are very interested in getting involved. But yeah, it's like it interacts with undergraduate research. We're trying to make it interact more, but we don't have an office of undergraduate research. We have these sort of 3 or 4 different ways that still exist now.
Anyone else want to speak to that?
Yeah, at KSU, we're really lucky that there's a big push of undergraduate research. So we had our last QEP, Quality Enhancement Plan, was partially about undergraduate research. Our current strategic plan is partly about undergraduate research. And so I could easily make the case that VIP is going to increase our numbers. And it's also going to increase numbers of people who might not otherwise get an experience because, like I think Rice talked about this, that it's open to anybody. It's just a little application form. And we all know there are barriers to getting involved if you have to go look up people's research interests and then knock on their doors and make an appointment and talk to them about their research and hope they say yes, right? And so with VIP, it's just, here's a little interest form. Students are going to fill it out and it's going to go directly to the faculty member overseeing that team, who basically accepts students. Like, we don't have any kind of GPA requirement. We don't have any barriers for the students to enter in. So that was pretty attractive to administration at KSU to at least get that initial $5,000 funding for each team.
So, and I want to get to funding in a second, but because there were some questions in the chat about that, and folks who are interested in Liz's great syllabus creator can contact her. Her email's in the notes there, and she has graciously offered to share the form with you and the secret code that will get you into it. There's a VIP consortium. And what's the role of the consortium in all of this? Do they have any role? Do they have any money?
I'm under the impression that they have money, but they're not necessarily sharing it out to different sites across the country.
Do they have any governance over what you're doing in your individual programs?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe they're supposed to, but honestly, from all three of us, I hear us deviating from things that the consortium, like the consortium is it's a class, there has to be a class. And it's not true here. We have lots of students volunteering. We have some students who are part of a team that are getting funding from the first year scholars program, so they're not taking a class. Like there's all these different ways that students are on teams that I think deviate from what the consortium really wants. So, but they're not kicking us out. So it's
Okay.
Yeah, and the consortium is trying to come up with some evaluation tools as well. Like they're working on getting, especially peer evaluations are a big component of what is done at Georgia Tech and some schools. And, you know, at Arizona, like peer evaluations have been something like, we have this possible tool for you, but it's not required. And I think the consortium would like everyone to require peer evaluations, and then they could have that data that we could then publish
Right.
across multiple universities about, you know, peer perceptions of team-based research, which I think would be valuable, but might be kind of tricky, especially if you're like us and have been going for 5 years without requiring this of new team leads.
Lakshmi, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to quick chime in about the consortium and the financial support. I do want to say that the consortium hosts an annual meeting, and they support at least 2 faculty from each institution to sort of attend this annual meeting. So that is a financial support, like pay your registration and accommodations. So I just wanted to say that for other institutions that have a VIP team and want to participate, it's typically like the second week of May is when it happens at Georgia Tech. So that is some support. And wanted to also echo what Case talked about, trying to have the centralized assessment services and other best practices that they can disseminate to other VIP teams, right? And also wanted to say, echo what Amy said about though VIP has tenants, they, you know, one size doesn't like fit all. Every institution has its own like way of doing things, right? But mainly the multidisciplinary nature, the vertical integration, there are big concepts of what they want to see in those teams. And they don't micromanage, I guess, how teams work, but yeah, have best practices that they would like other teams to follow.
Okay, great. So the two questions that have sort of dominated the chat and probably everybody's minds, one is, how do you get faculty interested in doing this? And the other is, of course, the $64,000 question is, where do you find the $64,000 to run the program, or however much money you need? Where does that funding come from, and how do you advocate for it on your campus? Because it was mentioned, for example, I think at Kennesaw, I mean, it's state funding. How do you negotiate that and make that happen when budgets are in such a crunch?
I can start off with answering those two questions for us. I think for us, the faculty interest really comes from I think the vertical integration, that you always have students moving through the projects and advancing in the leadership, is really enticing to our faculty who otherwise might work with one student and then they graduate and they're starting training a new student from scratch. And I really let them know this is a way that you never have to train a student from scratch, because they're moving through the project and you're always working with students that have experience.
So you're basically setting up a pipeline.
Setting up a pipeline. Yeah, absolutely. And then we have a summer research funding program where we've included VIP students as eligible applicants so that the projects don't even have to die over the summer. So it's a little bit outside of the, kind of definition of VIP for that to happen during the summer, because it's usually curricular based, but this allows us one way for students to at least have an application process to apply for additional funding to keep it going.
So Liz, does that mean the students who are doing a summer, I want to make sure I understand this, who are doing a summer project, like a summer scholars project, can continue that work as part of a VIP?
Yeah, so our summer scholars program for VIP, we tend to look for the students who are the leaders on the team that really can keep the project going over a summer, and they would apply through our office for funding. And faculty find that to be a great benefit that we've incorporated that into our existing programs.
Great.
I think the other thing that faculty find really useful, at least based on my experience, is the ability to incorporate this into grants. And the multidisciplinarity. So you may have like a digital humanities project that would really benefit from an engineer that could code the back end, but they don't have as much contact with the engineers. And so being able to, put on the website, this project would really like to have an engineer, and then have engineers apply directly for it, can be really enticing to faculty of getting the non-majors into their research projects.
That was one of the things that confused me at the beginning when Haley was talking about what they do at Kennesaw, is you mentioned, and it kept coming up throughout the presentations, about the interdisciplinary nature of this, which is fantastic. But Haley, did you mention that at Kennesaw, at least, it has to live in a particular department, or did I misunderstand that?
No, my apologies. It does not live in a specific academic department. It has its own container called RES, and students are able to apply that as a free
Right.
elective, but it does not live in a discipline or department.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. But any others want to chime in here on getting faculty interested, and also in the funding question? And Amy has put a link in there to the consortium on benefits of a VIP, the impact, which is helpful. Jen, question.
Well, I just had a thought. A lot of times when faculty are looking for funding, you can ask them to do other things. So has anyone included a question about being part of the VIP program in their other funding proposals for internal funding or even external funding? Just throwing a question in there. Would you be open to being part of this program, et cetera, et cetera?
We've kind of tried to do that at the U of A, both because I talked about our Undergraduate Research Alliance, and part of that is our Office of Research and Partnerships. And so one of our very active Undergraduate Research Alliance folks is involved as faculty are submitting grants. And so we're just trying to capture like our undergraduate students involved in these grants to try and count better the number of undergraduate students we have. But we also have with something called the Big Idea Challenge, which was internal funding that to fund multidisciplinary teams at the University of Arizona. And so we have talked about trying to reach out to each of those multidisciplinary teams that got funded. Some of them are already associated with VIP, but to ask the ones that aren't yet to form a VIP team as part of their project. So that's still in progress though.
As a slight follow-up, is there any institutional willingness to perhaps make these things required for certain types of internal funding?
Not yet. We're working on it, but not yet at the University of Arizona, just because of all the sort of continuing upheaval that's happening we had budget problems, which is why we have a new president and all of that fun stuff. So.
And I know that the whole concept of this was born in engineering, and everyone kind of mentioned that it still tends to seem to be dominated by STEM fields. But I mean, it's interesting at some of the schools how there really are interdisciplinary projects that have blended things in the arts with things in the sciences. Are you seeing a lot of that? How do you encourage that?
I mean, for Arizona, it goes back to how people learn about the program, and we sort of advertise and reach out to different departments and colleges, but they also hear it about it from their colleagues. And so they hear, oh, my colleague is doing this cool interdisciplinary thing, like maybe I also might be able to get involved, or I have interests that overlap. And what somebody said already about like sort of attracting, different faculty or different students from different departments that you may not interact with on a daily basis. That's part of it as well.
Liz?
I was just going to say, I think Arizona is like the poster child for the interdisciplinary projects. Some of their projects they have are really, really amazing. I would say we don't have a lot of interdisciplinary projects, but we do have a lot of interdisciplinary teams, meaning that the students are coming from diverse majors. And we're working on getting more interdisciplinary projects. But I think that that idea that anyone can participate regardless of your major is an important kind of feature.
Yeah, and so Linda's asked a kind of a peripheral question here about federal work study and the involvement of paying students to do this work. Does anybody run up against problems with that? I mean, there's always questions about what qualifies and doesn't qualify for federal work study, especially when you're dealing with students who are doing the same thing as volunteers. When you pay one student, don't pay another. Anybody running into that?
We have not. There is no so at Arizona there is no prohibition against students getting credit for and getting paid for like the same sort of job. And so like basically we just advise our team leads that if they're going to have a student who's for credit and for pay, then they should like just be aware of what the duties are and what kind of time commitment the student is expected to make. We don't have as many volunteers, so that hasn't necessarily been an issue, but it's just been like, how can we have students who are getting credit in the one hand or students who are getting paid? And basically the idea is we just sort of point everybody back to the, expectations for how many hours, a certain amount of credit is and how many hours a student might be working and, not to exceed that or it may lead to issues.
Lakshmi?
I had a quick question for Elizabeth, actually, talking about the payment, paying students. Did you mention that some students can get paid in VIP program and some students don't get paid? I know we are talking about federal work study, volunteering, and all that kind of stuff, but it also seems like to create problems when you have students in VIP and some of them are just paid and some of them are not paid, right? So we are trying hard at our institution to sort of only keep it curricular. Just for those reasons, we have other paid opportunities, but I see one of the institutions is trying to combine both, and I would imagine that in itself can create inequities.
Yeah, I mentioned our summer fellowship. So we typically don't have the VIP courses running over the summer. And normally that would mean that the project dies for 3 months or so. So
Okay.
we have a fellowship application process that is open to our VIP teams so they can have students apply. Usually it's not more than one student, or not usually, always, it is not more than one student per team. This is a way to have the team leadership keep going over the summer and be ready to onboard any new team members in the fall. So we're having this summer opportunity, this a paid opportunity while those courses aren't running.
Got it. Makes sense. So summer that keeps it different from the academic year curricular things. Okay.
And so we talked a little bit about, during the presentation about some of the challenges. And I think it would be kind of interesting to hear. So, I mean, is the annual conference that VIP holds, is that for folks to come and present projects, or is that to discuss VIPs?
They are both. There are presentations and there are like open discussions on, again, best practices. There's a lot of discussions on all the topics that was mentioned here about incentivizing faculty and sustainability of the team. So it's really a combination. Students also present their work. There's not a lot of students, but it's typically heavily attended by administrators and
Okay.
faculty leading teams, but there are also students. There is a student poster session. So mix of all those. Yeah.
So I think it might be helpful then to hear a little bit maybe from each of you about some of the outcomes. And my therapist would be happy that the pessimistic Bronx Jew isn't just focusing on the challenges. What are some of the good things that come out of the VIPs, folks? Are we seeing publications, conferences, folks going on to grad school? What's happening?
I'm going to start us off because we've only been doing it for 1 year. And so let those with longer outcomes have a little bit more time. But I want to say that a lot of our faculty that argued for a team being as small as 2 students now have teams of 8. Like they just grew so quickly, which is really great seeing our students have access to these opportunities. So it's increased our numbers of students that have access to research.
What about others?
We've had publications, conference presentations, students getting into grad school who might not otherwise have. And one team is working on some intellectual property and creating a startup out of their team. So we hope more of that continues. It's actually been really difficult to get this information. We have a required final report at the end of the year, every year, where teams are supposed to tell us their outcomes. And there's a lot of kind of not filling that out very fully. So
And Amy, remind me, how long have you been doing this at Kennesaw?
2021.
Okay, so it's been a couple of years. Kay, how about at Arizona?
So I have a lot of anecdotal information. We actually got an internal grant from the University of Arizona because the new provost is very interested in student success metrics. So we actually got an internal grant. So we're going to have a grad student to help us this year to actually try and capture what effect our VIP program has on student graduation, student retention, all those types of outcomes. But anecdotally, we have plenty of folks who are doing papers and conferences and going on to grad school. And like Amy, I have a each semester VIP census. And part of what I ask is, do you have publications that your VIP team students have been involved in? Do you have conference presentations, things like that? So I ask each semester, each team, and it's taken me 2 years to get almost everybody to respond to that census, but that's just like continual reminders and reminders and reminders. And last semester, for the first time, I got everybody to respond.
Yeah, and Ashley's asked in the chat here, how do you select students if you have more applicants than open spots? What's the deciding factor? Corinna says at UMD, faculty select the students based on their responses to a few questions. So it sounds like there's an application process. What about at other places? If you have more students than spots, what do you do?
We have kind of a similar thing. We ask students, like, tell us a little bit, like, what is your name, email, major, and why are you interested in this team? And are there skills that you bring to the team? And so that's kind of what faculty mainly base their decision on.
And it's the faculty member that makes the decision?
Yep, it's the team leader.
Got it. How about at other places? Same?
It's the same for us, but I was just going to say that there are other institutions that use an application system where there is an office that then places students on teams. And so just to say there are other examples out there, but we do it the same way as Kay mentioned.
Now, Kennesaw, you've been going for a few years. You must be getting a lot of applicants.
Yeah, if students don't get on a team, we send them information about other ways to get involved in research so that they don't feel like they're kind of left behind. But that does happen, yeah. Teams fill.
And do you find that they take advantage of those other opportunities?
No.
Well, that's depressing.
We have a very active first year scholars program where not everybody is going to get in, and we have VIP is the thing we route them to if they don't get into first year scholars, and we hardly ever see them again. So it's discouraging to be a freshman and get a rejection from the first thing you apply to. So that's been a struggle for us.
Ashley, we're going to say something?
I was just going to ask, and then are you coaching faculty on what sort of questions to ask them? Because I was looking a bit at the consortium's website, right? And they have such a centering around equity and like don't have a GPA requirement, right? Which I am fully on board for. But then if faculty are deciding, I'm just curious, like how they're landing where they're landing. Like, oh, I happen to know this kid because they were in my Gen Chem class and they got an A. Well, now you're selecting on GPA, kind of, right? I don't know. I'm just curious if you coach them.
You are completely nailing it. This is a very big problem because we want faculty to have the autonomy to pick who's on their team, but are they picking in an equitable way? So we have we just had it last week, I think, Haley can correct me if I'm wrong, all the weeks are running together, but we had an orientation with all the faculty last week, and we stressed that. And
Okay.
the extent that they're listening to us, I don't know. It's up to
Sure.
them, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge issue.
But you're at least including it in an orientation and in some training and like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Arizona does the same. I sort of meet with folks one-on-one or one on a group as team leads are interested in joining, and I emphasize that as well.
Lakshmi?
So David, in response, like you were asking about what are some of the positive outcomes, and Ashley was talking about the inequities possibly when like with all these interviewing process and everything. I want to say that because this is a curriculum-based model at our institution, that has actually allowed faculty to sort of take a chance, right? Because they are not using their grant money to support the research. So they have been like really more willing to give student opportunities for one credit. So if anything, it has helped in opening those doors, give student opportunities. So we definitely see that at School of Mines. So I just wanted to emphasize that it's been a good thing. Yeah, and then number two is that the funding opportunities are limited at our institution. I think that's the same scenario. So the way we are pitching VIP as we're scaffolding, like maybe students start off with this one credit, low commitment, right? Do it for a couple semesters, and then they apply for these funded opportunities, and they have very high chance of securing those opportunities because of the being on the team and all that. So it's just scaffolding that in that picture of other opportunities.
Great. So we got one more question here from my friend Linda Blockus, who is practicing to be in the White House briefing room because she's got a 4-part question here. So at each of your institutions, is VIP viewed, this is an ABCD deal, A, as a gateway to undergraduate research, B, as a low effort way to implement something like a cure, C, an expectation that for many students, they're going to grow into the team and that becomes their signature research experience, or D, an alternative to freshmen that get rejected from other programs. Pick one.
Arizona is A, B, and C. We are
Okay.
probably not D. But we play nicely with other programs. We emphasize that, like Lakshmi just said, we emphasize that students might join a VIP, but then they might become eligible for something that would be an undergraduate research experience that might be paid, for example, as most VIPs are not.
And Liz says C mostly, but a little A. This sounds like we're picking from a Chinese menu.
Yeah, I think ours is
How about a
mostly-
Kennesaw?
I think of it as C, but I also think students might answer differently than what I answer.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they might be in D, some of them. It's not really a B. We're very committed to cures, but this is different than a cure.
Right. Okay. And Tim asked, do you guide folks making selections about increased attention to identity-oriented selection? Tim, do you want to expand on what you mean by that?
Sure, David. Yeah, as I was trying to kind of fill out there, I just have had endless meetings with our internal auditors, proving that we're following the law. We have been, for the record. But one of the major challenges we have within some of the grants that we offer is that we send money to faculty who then manage that selection process. That process is not necessarily scrutinized in the same way. Those faculty don't necessarily have the same level of information about what they need to be doing to be sure they're complying with the law. And in the current environment, it's just endlessly frustrating trying to figure out what to do about this.
So the question is there any kind of guidance for faculty on making selections that increase attention when it comes to things like identity?
I will say one of the ways that we help faculty follow guidelines is by not collecting that information in the application. So faculty don't initially have access to it when they receive the information. We certainly tell our faculty that they're making selections based on the student's interest, not on their previous excellence in research, because we want students at all levels. And I think they recognize that to have a robust team, they have to select students from all levels on their teams.
Great. Well, I'm gonna end us here. It's 10 of. And I want to thank everybody for participating in today's URP exchange. Sincere thanks to our terrific facilitators, and thanks to Kerr, especially Todd Wagner, for his tech support. Join us for our next exchange, which will be on October 14th, when we will discuss the important issue of artificial intelligence in/and undergraduate research. That will take place Tuesday, October 14th at noon Eastern. I think that's the correct date. A Kerr registration link will be sent out soon. We're also holding an Undergraduate Research Programs Division open house meeting on Wednesday, September 24th at noon Eastern. All members of URP, elected and otherwise, are invited to attend, and I hope you will all join us again then. Thanks very much and have a great day.